everyone, it's Dr. Tamara Beckford with Your Caring Dogs. Yes, and we are here again for a wonderful and exciting show. So before I even go into all of this, I have some wonderful news coming up. So you guys stay tuned. Within the next few episodes, I have some wonderful and great news. But we are going to go into today's awesome episode. Ooh, a blinged out water bottle. I mean, how awesome is that? That's how awesome you know this episode's going to be. Alrighty. So my lady dog with her blinged out water bottle today is a graduate of Penn State College of Medicine. And she did her surgical residency, yes, at Hershey Medical Center, Penn State. All my Natty Lions, all my Penn State people, all my Hershey's people, hello, hello, hello. Yes, she's one of your graduates. Now, right now, she is not only doing general surgery, she's a trauma surgeon. For those of you guys, come on now, trauma surgeon, she's doing all this here and she's helping out all of her docs throughout the country, right? But as she does all of that, she is also the CEO of Serenity Wellness MD, where she helps high-performing women struggling with burnout and overwhelm to take control of their time, their mind, and energy through this MAPS framework that she has set out for us, right? So today we're going to all talk about boosting productivity. We're going to be talking about building great habits, and we're going to be doing this with the one, the only Dr. Serene Shereef.
Thank you. That was amazing.
All right. So thank you so much for jumping on the show, Dr. Shereef. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey,
it's great to
it
be
is
here.
our pleasure. All right. I am super excited about all that you're going to bring to our audience today. We're going to talk about productivity. We're going to talk about procrastination, building wonderful habits with her nano habit techniques. She's going to talk about this MAPS thing that we talk about. And I'm going to leave that to you to describe later on. But before we go all the way into that, we're going to bring it right back to the beginning. When little Serene says, you know what? I want to be a doctor. So tell us, when was it that you decided you wanted to be a doctor and why?
Well, that wasn't the question that I thought you were going to ask. But you know what? Since we're friends now, I guess I can share.
We are friends.
It happened. I'm kind of embarrassed to share, but anyway, it happened actually when I was like 10, 11.
See, that's what most of us.
I know, but people always say no, really like that young, but yes, yeah. I was actually, I was visiting my grandparents and they have a farm and, there was, for people not squeamish, but there was a animal that was, like slaughtered for meat. And they were looking at organs. And I remember like all the other kids were like so squeamish and they were running away. And I was so fascinated by the anatomy. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, it's so amazing that, we could see it. And I think that was the first time that I really had seen anatomy so up close and personal. So yeah, that was it. Like, I just thought, and it was really the science and the anatomy and all of that kind of attracted me. And it was, of course, as a lot of people share, it's as you get deeper into medicine and you connect with the patients, then you realize like all of that is just the tools that we use to help our patients. So
wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So now we have, little Serene, she's seen this and everyone's running away, but she's running towards it and fascinated. What is that? What is that? I heard about this. I heard about that. So what is that organ? So now you're there and you're into medical school and then it's time to decide and you decide, I want to be a surgeon. So tell us, how did you make that decision?
Actually, I wanted to be a surgeon since I was a kid. So I went into medical
organs.
Because I thought, okay, how amazing it is to be able to see a problem, see, something and be able to fix it. There's that immediate gratification part of it, of course, but, just be able to offer a solution and ease suffering and pain. So so quickly. It's not really quickly, as people who've gone through surgery know, but there is a relief when you remove the appendix or when you remove the gallbladder, and all
Yes.
of those kinds of things. So yeah, that's I was fascinated with it before even medical school, and then going through medical school, it really just sort of confirmed that this is really what I wanted to do, all my life.
Mhm.
And then I go through residency, and that was the part that I felt like I really struggled a lot. I mean, I
Ah,
still loved it, but it's very intense.
yes.
It requires a lot, not just like hard work, but a lot of sacrifice. I remember, most of my 20s and 30s, like, people, my family was getting together, my cousins were getting married, like people were having a life, and I had no life.
Right? You had I heard about your event. I heard it was so great. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I am grateful that like through that process, like I still I did have relationships, I did get married, and I had
mhm,
children, but I really felt disconnected
mm,
because it's hard.
yes,
I did train in the let's say 80-hour work week, but
mhm,
it really doesn't include everything that we do outside of just that clinical work, right? Like we still have to study, we still have paperwork to finish, we still have things to wrap up, and
mhm,
so there was just really no time to process or think about anything.
mhm,
So I'm glad that I loved what I was doing, because I
yeah.
think that was really the only thing that kind of got me through that phase in my life.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful insight into how our lives are
Mhm.
when we're in training. As you
Mhm.
mentioned, even though we might have the restricted hours, there's still so much. Now, a
Mhm.
lot of people, they probably don't recognize, they're like, oh, you're a doctor now and you're doing surgery, you're in training, but there's still exams.
Mhm.
And if I'm not mistaken, like our shelf exams, was it like every year you had to
Yeah.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you still
There's
had
an
this one
in-service
big
exam every
exam.
year.
Yeah, every year. The in-service. Yeah.
Mhm.
Shelf was when we were in med school. Shelf was in med school every 4 to 6 weeks.
You're
So
giving
now
me bad dreams.
you're talking about people who are always taking exams. It's so bad that I don't even remember. But the in-service exams, as
Mhm.
we mentioned, during training, like you're still, going through the process, and you still have to take this exam. And that's the exam before you go and get the board certification
Mhm.
exam. So, we're still in the process of you're learning, you're trying to now embrace this new phase in your life, but there's
Mhm.
still this test. Yeah, this test, yeah, this test. So it really still brings a lot of anxiety to
Mhm.
those of us who are in medicine. We're constantly being tested,
Mhm.
literally. Alrighty. So now, we're here and you're going through life. And then you've mentioned, the trying to channel and to balance all of this.
Mhm.
And then you mentioned, the word burnout, like, life led to burnout. So tell us,
Mhm.
when did that occur and what did it look like for you particularly?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing that I failed to mention is I'm actually an immigrant. I moved here when I was, to do undergrad, and then I kind of, went to medical school, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that I had really failed to recognize for myself um, is what is my identity.
Ah.
And when I was a kid, I grew up in Brunei. It's on the island of Borneo,
Hmm.
and I'm originally from India. So,
Hmm.
so I actually didn't even speak English until I was in my teens. I learned Malay first. We
Hmm.
were in a very small town, and so it was in my teens when I was in like middle school, high school that I learned, to I could speak enough English to do the stuff in school, but really
Right.
like being able to speak it.
Hmm.
So when I came here, I had already for almost half of my life been in a place where I didn't identify with where, like, I mean, I was different than the people around me.
Right. Hmm.
And so coming here, definitely there was, a lot of diversity, but at the same time, I still felt like I didn't fit in or I didn't belong.
Hmm.
And then now I'm in a very high paced, high expectation residency.
Mm-hmm.
And my oldest was actually 2 months, 2.5 months when I started as an intern.
Whoa.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Pause for the cause right here.
yeah.
So, intern year
Hmm.
in a surgical residency, and you had a 2 month old.
Right. And I was
Wow.
actually the only female resident with a small child,
Yes.
so that was different. I was, trying to like pump and breastfeed, and we didn't even talk about those types of things then.
No, not at all.
And right. And
Yes.
you felt like it was something that you had to like hide and not inconvenience
Yes.
anybody. So
Yes.
there was a lot of changes. And the reason I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that is because I think I was in burnout really pretty much most of my residency, but I
Yes.
failed to recognize it because, like I said earlier, I just thought, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. I'm just trying to survive. I don't have time to
Mm-hmm.
think about this. And I didn't fit in. Like, I wasn't like people around me. And so
Mm-hmm.
there were so many poles. And how I survived that is really just sort of covering it all up and putting on a face. Putting
Yes,
on a face and
no.
just
It's just
doing
like
it.
managing and just going on, doing what's
Mhm.
expected,
Mhm.
getting the cases done,
Mhm.
getting the charts done, going home, being a parent. And
Mhm.
and it's so important what you mentioned too, the hiding
Mhm.
the parental part, the maternal part
Yeah.
of you at work in
Mhm.
order to fit in with those who were at work.
Mhm.
Because in the surgical specialty, there are female surgeons, but there's still during the training process, it is intense. I mean, I remember
Mhm.
training, and one of my first in my residency, in emergency medicine, we trained with our surgical colleagues. At least we rotate with them.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
was on the trauma surgery rotation. It was one of my first. It's a blur to me. That
Yeah.
trauma rotation is a complete blur. Like things were
Mhm.
coming at me so quickly. You were so I cannot even imagine doing that as a parent
Yeah, and as a new mom, because
and
I
as a
didn't know
new
what I was
mom.
doing.
Well, I salute you. That I can understand when you say that, I was just getting it done and
Mhm.
not really absorbing. You didn't even have time
Mhm.
to absorb any of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was really burnt out. I took like 2 years and did bench research, and
Mm-hmm.
because I thought I wanted to do academics. And again, like towards the end of my surgical residency, like the burnout was very pronounced. I was very unhappy. I think if
Mm.
it wasn't for my support system, I mean, I was ready to quit so many times because I was just like I don't understand who I am anymore.
Oh.
And what I'm asked to do. I mean, I have family pictures, like upon family pictures, where I am literally sitting in a corner asleep, or I don't even remember that, and that's for the
Oh.
things that I even like made it to.
Right.
So it was,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it was a lot. But thankfully I did finish.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you finish, right, you work so hard for so long and you think,
Mm-hmm.
well, now things are going to be different. Now things are going to be better. And it
Yes.
turns out that's a myth.
It's just a continuation of what you were going through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mm.
different. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
So I had another child during my research years. So I have now
Mm-hmm.
two babies.
Yeah.
And my oldest is actually, he's now 17. He's almost like he's gonna start senior year soon. So I can't imagine how long it's been,
Mm-hmm.
how much things have changed. But at that time, I'm just learning again, two parent, like two kids, figuring that out. We moved to Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and I had an amazing, partner group, and I realized that, like finally now I get to focus on taking care of my patients and doing what I love.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. There was just so many things outside of medicine
Mm-hmm.
that I now had to learn. I had to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know that because I was in private practice. I'd done
Yes.
all of my training was in academics, and now I'm private practice and learning
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And again, trying to survive, trying to
Yeah.
do, fulfill the expectations that everybody had. My boss, like the RVU expectations, like
Hmm.
all the call expectations. Now I got to go, market myself and talk to other people.
Yes.
And then I have, a family. We just moved to this new area. They don't have a support network yet. So
Hmm.
trying to be present for them. So at some point, I realized, wow, like I am literally just doing this hamster dance. And
Just
yeah,
on this
it's
wheel.
different than
Yeah.
residency, but when is this going to get easier? And
Ah.
how long can I keep doing this?
Absolutely. We have one of our other lady docs, Dr. Benita Renato, says,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I slept everywhere when I wasn't working in residency too." Yeah,
Yeah.
we all understand. It's just a
Yeah.
real struggle to balance that life. So you've already sacrificed to get into
Mhm.
medical school. You sacrificed in med school. And in residency, you're still sacrificing. You're sacrificing one of the most important and valuable assets that we have, which is time.
Yeah.
Time. Alrighty. So now, you've gone through all of that and you've decided, you know what? I want to make a difference and I want to do something different within my life. And we've birthed Serenity MD. So tell me, how did
A-
that come about?
Actually, it wasn't birthed in Houston.
I
Um,
said it was birthed in Houston. It just got birthed.
no, yeah, yeah. So what happened was there were a series of things that happened in my life that
Yeah.
really kind of made me question
Hmm.
um, life, like what I was doing, all of that. There was a lot of philosophy involved in it.
Hey,
Um,
introspection is what takes us to that next level of change
yeah.
in our lives. Okay.
Right. Well, and of course, I'm so grateful that actually there was time to reflect and think too,
Hmm.
because, sometimes you're so busy, you're like, I can't even think about this.
Absolutely.
But what happened was I lost one of my best friends
Oh,
to maternal mortality. And I didn't like it was just, she is my age. She
mhm.
was having her first baby, was a much wanted baby. And it was just like so heartbreaking. Uh,
Absolutely.
For me, that was, I mean, I think most people, when they're younger, they think, oh, yeah, I got plenty of time.
Hmm.
Things will be easier later. Maybe when kids are about, older, when, like I'm 5 years into practice, when I get my next promotion, whatever it is, we think there is so much time.
Yes.
But then something like that happens and you think, oh, no, there isn't. Time is, as you said, one of our most precious resources. And we are giving it away. We're giving it
Hmm.
to all the people who ask us for our time.
Hmm.
So that actually prompted me to, we moved to Indiana just because I wanted to be closer to family and,
Hmm.
make some changes. So I go through this process and I realize, okay, I made all of these changes. My kids are now, asking. I had another baby, so I have now my third baby, and so this was my opportunity to be present in their life.
Mm.
And I remember my daughter, especially she's my youngest, she used to cry when I would come home, and she would just say, like at night I look for you and you're never there, and I just feel so alone. And she was like 3 or 4 at that time. And I'm like, wow, I'm traumatizing my
No,
children,
I know. Oh.
so at that time, and I felt like I had optimized my work as much as possible. I mean, this was, I had done the productivity. So I guess the
Hmm.
birthing had happened over time of just trying to be as efficient as I can, be as
Hmm.
mindful as I can, do the most that I can. And it didn't
Hmm.
matter how hard I worked, didn't matter how much I did. I felt like it was never enough.
Oh, yep.
And I was never enough to
Mhm.
like I wasn't present enough. My kids are still sad, and like I'm not doing a good job as a mom, and
Yes, that
all of
guilt
the
that comes
things.
along.
So
It's
much.
it's it's a layered weight that,
Mhm.
is upon a lot of us parents.
Yeah. So that's really how Serenity Wellness
Mhm.
MD came about. I had after a difficult weekend at work on call. I went in Monday morning and I handed my resignation letter and I just said, I can't do this anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know what I was going to do. A lot of people said, oh, you must have another job. I said, no, actually, I don't have anything planned. But I believe in myself enough to know that if I continue the way I am so deeply unhappy that this is not the life that I want. And, we started with this 11-year-old who this was her dream. I mean, I was living my dream and
Mm-hmm.
I was so deeply unhappy. And so, um, yeah, that was it. Serenity Wellness didn't really have a name at that time. I
Hey,
was just
it was
exploring.
the birthing
It was
process
the
of it.
birthing
It was
process.
coming.
It was it was years of labor.
Yeah.
Really, it started with me trying to figure out who I was. What did I
Wonderful.
want? How did I want to show up? Also, around that time, I had a family member who had a very devastating injury. Again, highlighting to me just how short life is in terms
Mhm.
of, we think we can do everything. Our health is guaranteed. Our time is
Yes.
guaranteed. And I realized life had no guarantees. And like, I need to show up and do what I want to do. And honestly, when I asked myself that, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Isn't
So,
that interesting?
yeah.
Like with all these years of training
Mhm.
and all these years of going out there and helping and taking care of others with the
Mhm.
training that you had, now it's time to say, okay, well, Dr. Shereef, what is it that you want for yourself? And you've been lost
Mhm. Yeah.
for this entire thing. So now, one of the things that you are doing as a part of your Serenity Wellness is that your story, which is very unique to you, but
Mhm.
still has a lot of similarities to a lot of people. Because
Mhm.
we have even Dr. Renato, she's saying, yeah, never enough, never getting caught up, missing family time.
Mhm.
Amazing how we have similar experiences. And a lot of us in medicine have these similar experiences. And a lot of us women in medicine
Mhm.
also have this. And so you want to help, those women struggling with the burnout and overwhelm to take control of their lives. And you're doing this, and you have this MAPS framework. So let us know, what is the MAPS framework, and how are you using it to help these wonderful women?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I started with,
Mhm.
again, in my space of burnout,
Mhm.
there was so much shame, right? There's so much
Yes.
isolation.
Yes.
So as I worked through it and I started opening up a little bit more, what I found is just like, is being shared here, right?
Yeah.
There's so much shared experience. We are
Mhm.
not alone. These
Mhm.
struggles are not, yes, we have our unique story, but there's no reason to suffer in silence or
Absolutely.
alone. So I started sharing more and I noticed themes. And
Mhm.
one of the theme is that yes, we had a dream. We are
Mhm.
working towards the dream, but somewhere along the line, we lose sight of who we are.
Mhm.
So it is finding, who are we again? And maybe it is learning to love medicine again, and maybe it's not. But whatever it is, it's coming back to who we are. And then from that space, creating whatever results, whatever life, right, that you want. So
Mhm.
MAPS actually stands for Mindfulness and Productivity Systems. And it's
Mhm.
just the acronym that, like when I was putting things together, that's what came up. But for
Mhm.
me, it's really just, what are the tools that helps us build our dream life?
Yeah.
How can we actually design it and create it? And so there's a lot of, within mindfulness itself, right? Gratitude,
Mhm.
non-judgment, letting go of the things that were holding us stuck, et cetera. So all of those elements of mindfulness. And then within productivity, I do a lot of habit design and
Mhm.
implementation, as well as looking at other tools like, how do you manage your time? How
Yes.
are you managing your calendar? How do you manage your emails? And most people, when they come to coach with me, they think, oh, okay, I'm just going to figure out these action steps and it's all going to get
Yes.
easier. But and yes, all of those action steps helps. Maps is a framework, a set of tools, but
Mhm.
really ultimately it comes down to the self-love, self-compassion, accepting us for
Mhm.
who are, like belonging and not just fitting in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And ultimately, connecting to who we are authentically, just owning our
Authenticity.
story and
Yes.
yeah, who we are.
Wonderful. I love that. It's connecting to who you are. It's rediscovering that
Mhm.
person in you that
Mhm.
gets lost on this journey called life. And this journey where you're really pouring into a lot of others. And then with this, you now reconnect and you're pouring back into
Mhm.
yourself. And a big part of that, which is what I'm preaching, and I'm getting my soapbox and I'm saying it every day: self-care, self-care, finding you,
Mhm.
and how important it is to find yourself so that you are there for others. Now, I know some people are like, boost productivity. How does this boost productivity? So let us
Mhm.
know, what are some little small nano habits, which I know that you do have, that you've noticed within your clients or even within yourself? Because a lot of what we're doing and we're teaching, we've done it on ourselves, and we're like, oh, this works, let me show you how. That
Mhm.
you've noticed. What are some of these small techniques, nano habits, that you've noticed that has made some big results within your clients?
Yeah, really, I think it comes back to some of the things that you already shared, which is
Mhm.
understanding that we can't fill someone else's cup
Yes.
if and when, right, our cup is empty. So
Yeah.
self-care, I agree with you, is one of the biggest productivity tool
Yes.
to help us really be our best, show
Hmm.
up as our best. So that includes for me really understanding what is it that we want
Hmm.
and doing it. Self-care is about keeping commitments to ourselves, not
Hmm.
saying yes to everyone else and then no to us. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that includes things like fitness, it
Mhm.
includes things like self love, self compassion. How do we talk to ourselves? How do we
Yes.
support ourselves through our life journey?
Hmm.
And then there's some habits involved in that too, habit building, right? Couple of things people don't remember are things like rest. It's not just sleep.
Hello.
You got to have rest.
Rest. Exactly. I love it. It's like we're speaking the same language.
And I, I mean, to be honest, rest is something that I have discovered and worked through in the last year only. So
Hmm.
even with years of really kind of working through and supporting myself in self care, I really thought self care is a massage. That's it. Like when I get a
Hmm.
massage, my self care bucket is done. But then I didn't pay attention to how am I talking to myself when I make
I love that
mistakes,
one
when
too.
I struggle. Like if I'm just constantly right creating this persona that I can't accept me for who I am, which is I'm
Hmm.
just a human. I'm
Hmm.
going to make mistakes. I'm going to be imperfect. And I'm still able to do good things. You don't have to be perfect
And I'm
to help
still
others and do
worthy. I'm
that.
still worthy of love
Yes.
even when I make mistakes.
Mhm.
I love that you're talking about how do we talk to ourselves.
Mhm.
If we real and a lot of these rhetoric is going on in our minds subconsciously, so we're not really paying as much attention to it consciously. But if you
Mhm.
were to really stop and think about it, you will realize like these negative talks, we're
Mhm.
walking through the day doing almost all of our lives, our daily activities here with this negative talk. You tripped. Oh, well, why did you even put that foot in front of the other? Come on, how
What's
silly
wrong with
can
you?
you be? Yeah, like, come
What's the
on now.
problem with you?
What's wrong with you? Like, you don't know how you've been walking since you were 9 months. You still can't walk.
Mhm.
I mean, we have so many negative rhetoric. And if you really stop and pay attention to it, and then you start to intentionally find ways to turn that and say, wait a minute, why am I going down this negative road? Because that's something that I started working on myself, and it is
Mhm.
amazing. Because for me, most of the negative road and the negative thoughts occur when you're like doing something simple, like you're in the shower and you're doing, you're just really
Mhm.
in those theta thoughts. And then
You're
you're having a great
ruminating.
time. And then it's just this negative thought, like, just snatches in. And I love
Mhm.
that you're really highlighting the importance of how are you talking to yourself? What are
Yeah.
you saying? And that's a great way to even start. It's hard.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I still this is a great thought for
Mm-hmm.
anyone who's interested to try.
Yes.
Um, I tell myself multiple times, I
Mm-hmm.
am enough. I'm
Yes.
doing enough. I'm
Yes.
doing enough as a mom. I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
it, like whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
just reminding myself that. And it's actually a very centering thought for me, especially because it reminds me that I don't need to do anything more to
Mm-hmm.
be worthy, that I
Yeah.
am enough right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I am enough. So when
Mhm,
I trip, I'm enough. It's not that I'm silly and how dare
mhm,
you. I'm enough. I just
mhm,
put the other foot in front of the other, or if I fell down, get up and then
mhm.
just keep going. It's
And
not
actually,
the end
that
of the
brings
world.
up another sort of thought to offer, which is when when you trip, when you
Mhm.
fall, when you struggle, ask yourself, what do I need right now?
Yes.
And do it.
Yes.
Right? We always think we get frustrated. Well, why isn't my so and so, my loved one, my husband, spouse, wife, etc. Like, why aren't they fulfilling? Like, why aren't they helping me? No, ask yourself, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And do it. And the more you do, you start to believe I'm enough. I am worthy of being taken care of.
Yes.
And I can help myself have whatever I need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because as you mentioned too, when you're at the point where you're falling or you're tripping or things aren't going right, more than likely you are missing something that you want or need that's getting you in that framework of being frustrated, being,
Mhm.
feeling dissatisfied.
Right.
And a lot of times it's not what you think. If you
Mhm.
sit with yourself and just go down, it might be something very simple that you can provide for yourself and blossom back to the you that you know who you are and
Mhm.
you to be. Love it. And now let's talk about procrastination. I love that because a lot of us are procrastinators. What are some of your thoughts on what makes us procrastinate?
Mhm. So I was a huge procrastinator, and it is
Mhm.
something really that um, I had to discover
Mhm.
for myself why the struggle was going on. So lots of reasons why people
Mhm.
procrastinate, but ultimately, it boils down to one thing,
Mhm.
which is we are not connected to what we say we're going to do.
Ah,
I'm going to go work out, but internally, I'm
yeah, I
like,
really don't want
do
to.
I really? I don't really want to, right? If you create goals that are not connected to your identity,
Mm.
you are not going to show up. So we need to work first on figuring out, okay, so maybe you don't want to work out, right? That's okay. But
Mhm.
is there something within your identity where fitness would be important? So maybe, you like, being connected to your children and being
Mhm.
active with them is important
Mhm.
to you.
Mhm.
So, instead of like pretending that something is true when it's not, just
Yeah.
look at what is already true for you. Look at
Um,
what are your core values,
mhm.
your goals, your self identity,
Mhm.
and that requires us being honest with ourselves. And
Ooh, and that's the hard part.
yes, yes. So that is one aspect of procrastination. The other aspect of procrastination is um, I don't know about you, but I don't like to feel guilt, blame, shame, right? Like if I am feeling like shame, I want to shut it down. So if I'm
Yes.
doing something and I
Mhm.
have made it into this thing where I have to make it perfect, like my whole self-worth, et cetera, is tied up into
It's
it.
tied to this one
Right.
thing.
And if it
How
doesn't
many
work,
times do we do this?
no, if it doesn't work, like something's wrong with me, I'm not enough, etc., then I don't want to feel that guilt, that blame, that shame of not being enough. And
Mhm.
so I will do anything to avoid that.
Mm.
So ultimately, it all comes back to our identity. What do we want in our life?
Mhm.
And are we willing to embrace
Mhm.
the good and the bad? You know that, yeah, we're
Absolutely.
gonna we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be a little messy, and it's okay.
And for those of you who are that type A personality, the person who's always been a go-getter, 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 go for it, getting it done, high performing person, you have this level of perfectionism
Mhm.
that's a part of your, and you might even think it's a part of your DNA, but it really isn't. You
Mhm.
know, getting things done and sometimes imperfect is better than the perfect. You will honor that date with yourself to do
Mhm.
whatever it is that you planned on doing. Because I find myself like that too. If I have 30 minutes to do a 30-minute block and whatever it is was going to take me the 15 minutes, like, no, I want to have that 1 hour so that I can concentrate in case anything happens. Why? Why? It does not have to be perfect. Get it
Mhm.
done and just move on.
Mhm.
So getting out of our way is a big hurdle for those of you who are high performing, just type A personality, must get this done, and you're tying everything, all of your results, to you, that it has everything. If it's not perfect, then they're going to think that I'm not perfect, and how
Mhm.
dare they think I'm not perfect.
Or they'll know that I'm an imposter, right? Like,
Oh yeah, they're
they'll
think
know that I'm not
that
as
I
good as
really don't know this.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, we need to get
And
out of our way. Yes.
and also, like, when you explore, because I hear from, a lot of people who struggle with procrastination,
Hmm.
they almost absorb that as a procrastination is part of their identity.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
not. Oh no, that's just me.
that's just me. Like, this is just something that I can't do. And for all of those people, I just want you to know that was me.
Hey.
I thought, okay, this is just me. Like, I'm just
Hmm.
not able to do these things. And when I realized that this belief, false
Hmm.
belief, was
Absolutely.
really keeping me stuck in a place that I didn't want to be. It was
Hmm.
keeping me stuck from going out there and achieving my dreams.
Hmm.
It was much easier to let go of that. It wasn't serving me, right?
Yes.
Let go of it. And I still sometimes procrastinate, but when I do, no shame, blame, or guilt, right? You
Hmm.
just acknowledge, yeah, I wonder why I didn't do what I said I was going to.
Hmm.
And just asking yourself that question, honoring whatever the problem is, figuring out,
Hmm.
moving on.
And moving
Like,
on.
yeah, moving on. It's done.
Moving
It's
on.
over.
That was yesterday. We're moved on. I love it, love it, love it. So we've talked about all of these things. So we're gonna just quickly go into what are you doing for your self
Mhm.
care.
Recently, my biggest focus has actually been rest.
Oh, see,
I'm exploring how rest shows up in my life.
hmm.
So I've tried multiple different variations. I've built habits around that. And
Hmm.
what I found ultimately, sort of the 1 year later version, is that for me, I need to see rest blocked off in my calendar. If not, I end up saying yes to what other people ask of me. So
Yes.
and the reason why rest right now is so important to me is because I am also, in a phase of transition in my life. So
Hmm.
to just connect to that from earlier, I was working full time. I quit. And then over time, I taught medical students for a few years. And over time, I've actually gone into a part-time surgical practice. So I'm still practicing. I do trauma acute care surgery,
Hmm.
practice part-time, and I'm doing coaching and speaking and all of those things. I teach on habits, etc. So I'm trying to figure out what is my next level, and in
Hmm.
order to do that, in order to create, right,
Yeah.
you need time for your brain to be
Hmm.
creative. And this is something I've actually never given space in my life to do.
Yes.
I always wanted to study, like even when I was a kid. So, I would give up sort of my hobbies or my extracurriculars so I could focus on my studies. And so
Hmm.
it's just a different phase in exploring how is rest allowing me to be creative, be um,
Powerful.
like create that magic, that enchantment in my life.
Absolutely. And this is something that I feel a lot of us have neglected within our
Mhm.
lives because we, especially for those of us who are procrastinators, we feel like we do our best creativity at the last minute. And when I just got it in right before the deadline and I was able to, but there is beauty in
Mhm.
rest and really creating on the next level.
Mm.
Not just creating for what needs to be done right now, but something that you can create for the future, and
Mm.
really absorbing and being visualizing yourself there, and smelling, feeling, and really getting back to that portion of our lives when we were younger and we had
Mhm.
this vivid imagination of all we could be, but we suppressed all of that
Mhm.
throughout this life. So going back to that phase, rest allows our imagination to go wild. And that's so important for us as humans in order to really just imagine all the possibilities that are out there for us that we've suppressed,
Mhm.
because reality says, what are you talking about? You need to get this done. But it's important for us to really carve that time out to
Mhm.
imagine and to create
Mhm.
that space and that
Absolutely.
life that we want. So I'm glad that you've highlighted that rest is your biggest self care
Mhm.
at this time. So now that we've found what you're doing for self care, we're going to ask that fun question that we ask all of our guests. So, if you weren't a doctor, what would you be?
So there's actually two things.
Mhm.
One is something that I've always wanted to do, and one is something that I've connected to in the last couple of years. So the
Okay.
first one
This
is,
is imagination police time,
oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
I
non-imagination
could I
police
could
time.
do
We're
anything.
going wild with this because
So
we've had some backup dancers for Beyonce. We've had some people who are, traveling. We have people who are building gardens, who are doing urban planning. Like, this is imagination central. So go ahead, lay it to us.
so my first love, if you will, is
Mhm.
I would love to be a baker.
Oh, we
A
do have another
combination of
one.
baker, chef. I always thought I would own this bookstore and have like this coffee shop, and
Oh
like
my
that.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you met Dr. Megan Mello? Because she does that too. The
Oh,
same
really?
thing. Yes. Bacon with a little bakery. Yes. Absolutely. Love
Yeah.
it.
And so what's amazing is when I had taken that little break from,
Yes.
full-time medicine, I actually baked for a coffee shop. I have pictures of
Oh,
me
I
as a
love.
professional baker. I even had an LLC for it. I did it with some friends. And
Yes.
I realized that, I love to bake, but maybe I don't want to do it professionally. So, you have this vision, like you think this is
Yes.
how it's going to be, but I'm like, it's not quite as fun as I thought it was going to be. So,
Yes.
so
So now
now
you
I
bake for
just
fun.
I just bake for fun. So I would say maybe my new sort of like alternative profession is I would love to be a travel consultant or like a
Mm,
travel consultant. I don't want to be the person who coordinates everything, but I love dreaming up this amazing trip
yes.
and bringing into fruition. I've been traveling more, of course, with the whole pandemic blip, but since then,
Mhm.
and I it's so amazing to plan and to see some of this come up, and it is sort of like creating dreams.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. So not only are you traveling, but you're baking yummy treats too. Boom.
Yeah. Well,
Double.
and when you go to other
Mhm.
places, you could learn to make some of their cuisine. So
Yes.
that you could combine all of it.
All of that. I love it, love it. I do have a couple of our docs that are really into the travel space too.
Mhm.
So I think that this is wonderful. We had someone who wants to do travel journalism. So while I know, I'm telling you, this is like a wonderful. I learned so much about all
Fun.
of my guests with this
Mhm.
wonderful, wonderful question. So now I know we have some people who are listening, they're watching, and they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? You're right. I've gone through something similar. And you're right that I really need to find myself. I'm
Mhm.
on the verge of burning out. I don't want to go through burnout. I've seen how it's been with some of my colleagues or some of my friends, and I want to pull myself back. I'm recognizing that there's some skill sets that, despite all of this training that I might have had in my life, whether it be either medicine, law, or anything, but I've had that training, but there's certain little tool sets that I would love to incorporate in order to live this life that I know I deserve. And I think that you are the one to help me. Where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, serenitywellnessmd.com.
Mhm.
They can find me on my podcast, Mindfulness and Productivity Systems podcast, where I really share, we've been talking in themes. And actually, this month, we're talking about permission to be
Mhm.
you.
Yes,
So it's interesting, some of our conversation. So,
absolutely.
and then of course on social media, I am on Mindfulness and Productivity Systems Facebook page, as well as Instagram, Serenity Wellness MD. So lots of different places, as well as LinkedIn
Mhm.
as well, Serene Shereef.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, thank you so much, Dr. Shereef, for stopping by the show and laying it out for us and how your life, what brought you into medicine, what had you changing your outlook on how your life was and what you wanted, and some of the steps that you made in order to create a life that you're loving now, and some of the steps that you're making to help others to create the life that they want, using some of these wonderful tools, and also bringing forth that mindfulness and imagination through rest, which is so important, which is a huge part of your self-care routine. So those of you guys who are listening and you want to connect with Dr. Shereef, like she says, you can find her on her website, serenity.com, Serenity MD.
Serenity
Serenity.
Wellness MD.
Oh Lord.
I know it's a mouthful. You can just look in the show notes.
Look at the show notes.
That's what I always have. Like, just look at the show notes. It'll be
Look at the
fine.
show notes. We got you.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful,
Thank you
wonderful.
for having me. It's been an amazing discussion. And, what a beautiful way, right, for us to
Mhm,
connect and share with others. Because I think when I started with on this journey, one of my biggest hopes is that
mhm.
none of us, I mean, no one should feel alone.
Absolutely.
And like they're the only person struggling through this. We
Mhm.
got you. You're not alone.
Exactly.
We're all
Yes,
together in this.
absolutely. We are all together in this. What a wonderful way for us to close this wonderful show. Alrighty, guys. Thank you all for watching and listening, and we will catch you next time. Bye
Bye.
bye.